Hola, and welcome to our 31st episode of the Roofless Dog and Pony Show. My name is Julio Panisello, and I am the Dream Alchemist at Roofless Painters, and I'm going to be the host of this episode, this presentation. We do the Roofless Dog and Pony Show every single week on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, and what we do, we present the inspiration, the conceptual inspiration and stylistic inspiration of the next painting webinar. We do a painting collection every week, and we use these episodes as an introduction to the painting webinar. So when we get to work on our paintings, we start painting from minute 1. You can find all the episodes in our YouTube channel, and also here on Instagram. But yeah, we would love it if you just go to either our YouTube channel or our Instagram and make a comment and like and follow us if you're watching this for the first time. And yeah, let's kind of get started. Whoa, that's so nice. Thanks, everyone. So this week has been pretty intense, and we had sort of like a hard time coming up with, not really a hard time coming up with an assignment, but mostly there's so much we wanted to talk about, and we wanted to incorporate in our inspiration, that we were not sure what direction to take. So one of the things that's happening this week, it's the Lunar New Year. It's one of the most important astronomical events with significance for billions of people. And we thought of doing something related to that. This year is going to be the year of the ox. And we checked some images of oxen, and they're beautiful, incredible creatures. And we found references of oxen in paintings that unfortunately are subjected to the treatment of humans, always carrying heavy loads, always bound or tied up. So we thought it would be interesting to kind of like incorporate that. At the same time, this week, there is this trial that's happening that it's pretty amazing, historical obviously, but it's so fascinating to see competent people, not on the defender side obviously, unpack, deconstruct, and really create create a portrait or a picture of the events that happened in January 6th. So crystal clear, so well explained, that we felt that's something that we, as painters, we wanted somehow to incorporate with our inspiration and try to find a theme or an inspiration for our painting this week that would convey this idea of justice. To make it even more complex, in a couple of days or so, in a few days, it's Valentine's Day. We usually take advantage of this holiday to sort of like take down myths about love and romanticism, and we want to make sure that this holiday is inclusive, which we think it is not. There are a lot of people who are not in a romantic relationship. They have lost their romantic partner. So it's a very exclusive, excluding relationship, holiday. So we usually do something related to that aspect. So there was so much. There was so much that we wanted to talk about that we got a little bit confused, not for the lack of subjects, but for the lack of clarity. So we decided to do or we're proposing something that hopefully is going to bring together a couple of things, a couple of big themes, and at the same time it's going to be a good challenge for us as painters. This we thought would be a great opportunity to throw in a self-portrait assignment. Yes, a self-portrait assignment. And self-portraiture, it's very important. We try to keep some regularity in regards to creating self-portraits. It's one of the best ways to conceptually document the time that we live in. So we can always do a self-portrait and date it, and that would bring us back to a specific time in history, in our history. So in addition to that, because of the lack of models, and also because we're confined, using ourselves as our own models, it's something that has been done many times, and we think that it's a good practice also to get to know each other. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just really distracted. To get to know ourselves, and also to make peace with our own changes, because as we continue living our lives, we experience changes that are internal and also external. And it's always a good idea we think as artists, to document history and also document our growth, our changes, and how over time we start looking different. And this idea comes from Edward Munch, the artist. We saw a retrospective in London at the Tate Modern a few years ago, and he was documenting himself, doing a lot of self-portraits was one of the main premises of his life, and we thought that it was very interesting to use yourself as a subject for many reasons. Let me just kind of like start with the first slides. I didn't download the slides, so all right, so we're going to keep this short, and we're going to show the slides to anyone who signs up. I just was so fascinated by a couple of things. So yeah, the assignment would be to do a self-portrait blindfolded. So that's the twist. We kind of like create different aspects when we do self-portraits. So again, a self-portrait blindfolded. And the reason is because we want to converge a couple of main themes. The idea of justice. So as we know, justice is represented by this figure that is wearing a blindfold, and supposedly the blindfold represents impartiality and equality in a way. So the fact that it doesn't matter where you come from, how much money you have, or your social status, everyone should be treated the same under or with under the eyes. I don't want to use the eyes because obviously it's a blindfolded self-portrait. But yeah, this idea of equality. We also have images of people protesting in different countries and for different reasons, wearing a blindfold, standing in silence and wearing a blindfold, claiming or protesting to reclaim the justice to be applied equally to everybody. So we thought this could be a good way to mark or observe this very important time in history where this trial of someone who did something awful would be a historical moment to mark, and as a form of almost protesting as we see this craziness unfold by portraying ourselves wearing a blindfold. So it's both a way of tapping into the idea or the mythology of justice, and also in our quiet way protesting against the fact that maybe justice will not be applied. Also, the blindfold has many symbols, and the idea of Cupid being the symbol of love and being represented in some instances with a blindfold. As Shakespeare said, love is blind. And so this idea of incorporating or breaking that single box of what love looks like, and also how everyone loves differently, and every form of love, consensual love, I should say, should be respected. So self-portrait, blindfolded, also marking this idea of love, perhaps desire, and a way of passion, and a way of involving the concept or the inspiration behind Valentine's Day in a way that feels artistic and significant. So a self-portrait with a blindfold. So we're going to do the webinar tomorrow, and we're going to show plenty of instances of paintings and sculptures and photography throughout history, with references or someone with a blindfold as the subject of the artwork. And I'm sorry that I didn't have time to upload the images, but that's probably meant to be. You can do a few trials. You can do it yourself. I've tried it. It's not difficult. You don't have to face the camera. We have images of paintings where the blindfold, it's either profile or even facing a completely different direction, so you can see only the back and the actual blindfold, so it doesn't have to be facing the viewer. So, and also a very important and very interesting article that we read, and perhaps this will give me a little bit more time to explain the sort of like disclaimer in regards of the problems and the conflict of using a blindfold. Because when we do sort of like our own research to try to tap or to find inspiration with subjects that we think could be a good idea to depict or to use as in a painting, we try to read or find out different voices and different opinions regarding the subject. So there are a couple of lawyers and philosophers, and I'll tell you, or I'll try to explain why, that they have an issue with the idea of using blindness as a metaphor for lack of knowledge, because they think that metaphor has ableist overtones. And that at first sort of like shocked me, because as much as we try to do our own work to be aware and understand the implications of using things in our language that are ableist, there's so much that is happening that and we are still learning how this works, that this caught us a little bit by surprise, but we also understood this premise, this idea. So that's why I was conflicted of how to use this in a painting, because it's obviously related to sight, but I feel like conveying the idea of a bigger theme like justice and attraction or desire or love, we're going to try to convey this essence or this idea that it's the lack of sight, it's pertaining to judgment and also morals. rather than just being associated with the function of one of our senses, because we have to always think about how we would feel if we would propose this to someone who would actually have disability in their eyes, and it would feel a little bit odd and possibly ableist. So anyhow, I'm just going to read a couple of quotes, and hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. But there is this push by several lawyers to remove the term blind review from the legal lingo, I guess. So, and they bring back this idea of associating blindness with lack of justice, implying or meaning that blind people cannot know things. So the article goes on and on, but that's a very interesting approach. Also, this idea of associating blindness with an illness, when what we're trying to do is to express a state of being, a state of also mind. You can be blind for all sorts of reasons and have nothing to do with being disabled. Blind is not a slur term, and as other terms like cripple and other parts of our vocabulary that unfortunately are ableist, but it is often used as in a negative sense. So I don't want to go too deep into this idea of blindfold and the sense of sight. I want to focus on the two overall concepts for this assignment: a self-portrait wearing a blindfold to represent the pursuit of equality or make evidence the lack of equality, and also this idea of desire and passion and love. And even though I don't have the image because I didn't download it, I have an image of Marlene Dumas, who is a South African artist who now lives in the Netherlands. And she does a lot of portraits, and there's a paragraph that I want to read that expresses more accurately from the point of view of an artist, why are we doing self-portraits wearing a blindfold. There is a very beautiful image of a portrait with a blindfold. Dumas paintings are seen as portraits, but they do not represent people. They represent an emotional state that one could be in. Her art focuses on more serious issues and themes such as sexuality and race, which I'm just gonna make a stop here. Also, it's an extension of this idea of justice and love, perhaps a little bit more romanticized in our self-portrait. Her art, I just read that. Sexuality and race, guilt and innocence, violence and tenderness. Dumas' style is more older. It's more like in the romanticist tradition. She uses loose brushstrokes to add distortion, but also great detail to her art. Dumas likes to use a wet-on-wet technique that combines thin layers of paint with thick ones. Her media of choice is oil. That's not pertaining to my explanation. But yeah, this idea of doing a self-portrait to represent a state of mind and include these two themes, justice and love, because we are in the middle of this amazing historical trial that possibly it's not going to end up in a conviction, so justice will not be served. And since we've seen images of people protesting around the world at different times for different reasons, standing up in silence wearing a blindfold in front, generally in front of like buildings that represent justice. So we thought this could be a good idea, and at the same time the fact that love is love, love is blind, rather than love is blind, which is very Shakespearean, I think we should fast forward to the expression love is love, and So not the idea of not making a judgment based on what someone looks like. I think that's the ultimate expression of love. So yeah, thank you so much, and I want to apologize for not having slides. So thanks, Lois, and thanks, Corey Art, journaling, Hania, nice to see you, Denise, thank you. Oh my gosh, this is so nice. Me Violet, thanks for joining. We love your images of architecture, and they're incredible. Everyone, please check this account. Claire, thanks for joining. Dina, I hope you liked the presentation without slides. And Laura and Darlene, you're always amazing, always the first one. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much. Again, we're doing self-portraits blindfolded. Don't panic. You can just do your creative twist. It could be a blindfold facing somewhere else. Give it a try. Explore it. It's a very interesting the view of a self-portrait, and we hope you can join us. And it doesn't feel too scary. You can use any fabric, of course, you want. And also this idea, by the way, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. So we've seen each other for the past almost 12 months wearing a mask and covering our mouths, covering our noses. So I feel like doing a self-portrait covering our eyes, it's a tangent from the justice and love theme of maybe changing the rules a little bit, and for once just covering a different part of our face, that it's not our mouth and our nose. So kind of like experience what that feels and what that looks like, because I feel like we got used to only seeing people with the eyes, people looking at their eyes. At the same time, and notice that I purposely want to make clear that this is going to be a positive self-love, body positive assignment, because there's a dark side of the blindfold, and I'm going to briefly point out that there are images of people blindfolded when they have been taken hostage, images of people tortured that have their eyes blindfolded, and not so dark, but blindfolded or blindfolding someone. It's a sexual fetish, and it just involves this idea of dominance and being dominated, and also not being able to know or see. There is a very interesting performance that this African American artist contemporary, his name is no, I don't have it, William Pope L, and he had a retrospective in the MoCA Museum a few years ago. And yeah, one of the pieces, it's an American flag with a lot of fans, and he hired a couple of people blindfolded crawling underneath. After a while, the ends of the flag start shredding, and so you can imagine the charged conceptual idea behind the shredding flag, and the piece is called Migrants. So I'm just gonna put it there. So you could just go that super dark direction, but we're gonna focus on the body positivity, or rather like self-love, and the idea of demanding justice. All right, well, thanks you guys, and sign up online. The link, it's in the calendar. I'm gonna send an email later tonight with some of the images, and we hope you sign up. Bye.